Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. It's been a long day for sure. My client's been patiently waiting behind the scenes. Of course, he maintains his innocence throughout this whole process. We're not surprised with the toxicology report. We've been waiting for this day. First and foremost, let me say that this is a tragedy to lose such a beautiful young woman named Lauren Smith Fields. And that should be the major focus of the investigation is this tragic event that's taking place. As we know, the DEA has now been involved to assist the city of Bridgeport with this investigation, and we have full and uttermost faith that the truth will come out for Mr. Lafountain.
Okay, now I want to give you an opportunity to respond to some things that we've heard from the family's attorney, Darnell Crossland. As a matter of fact, they filed a notice of claim. They're going to sue the city of Bridgeport, so they had to file their claim of notice, and they did that, and I want to read part of that. According to the incident report, present at the scene was a white man named Matthew Lafountain. This man is old enough to be Lauren's father. Based on the way the scene was processed, there is reason to believe that Detective Cronin has some connection to Mr. Lafountain and may have unofficially arrived at the apartment to assist Mr. Lafountain in a cover-up around 3:30 a.m. prior to Mr. Lafountain officially dialing 911.
There is zero connection between any detectives and my client, Mr. Lafountain, in this matter. I just want to state that as a fact. And the media has been alleging that Mr. Lafountain is a married man who is 50 years old. That couldn't be farther from the truth. He is single. He is 37 years of age. I'm not sure if that makes him old enough to be the decedent's father in this case, but let's just set the record straight in that regard.
Single and 37. Gotcha. I want you to take a listen now. We've got, again, Darnell Crossland, who is the attorney for the family. I want you to hear what he had to say and then get your response to this.
Thanks.
In this particular case, there's definitely toxicity, but where did the drugs come from? And why did they question this white man who met this young black girl on Bumble? This young girl didn't use drugs at all. She went to the gym every single day. She worked out. She don't have any plastic surgery like a lot of these models have, like surgery. She has none of that. It's all natural. And the family is so close, they knew that she wasn't using drugs or any other type of pills. But yet still, this white man is just floating in the air and there's no examination. Go to his house, check his credit card, see that he buy the tequila, see that he spiked the tequila. He said that he slept with his clothes on and he never had sex. Yet we forced them to collect a condom with semen in it from the bathroom. And here we are a month later. The condom is collected finally 2 weeks after the death. And now we're 4 weeks and nothing has been submitted to the laboratory in Meriden, the forensic laboratory, for testing. So we are really at a loss here, and we're not going to stop until we get justice.
All right, Peter, the big question is, was there a sexual relationship between your client and Lauren?
There was no sexual relationship between the two. And regarding the Bridgeport police and their investigation, I can't speak as to why they did X, Y, or Z, or why they didn't do X, Y, or Z. But the fact that Mr. Lafountain is a white male, plays no relevance in my mind as to whether or not Bridgeport properly investigated this case. As I stated earlier, the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration is now involved, and I'm sure that they will take all proper avenues to investigate this matter fully.
If your client's asked, would he submit his DNA without a court order?
I would have to, I have no comment about that, whether or not he'd give a DNA sample at this time.
And is he still ongoing and willing to speak to investigators at this point?
He's been dealing with the investigators as from the onset of this case. He was the first one to discover her not breathing. He called 911. I believe he spent over 3 hours being investigated by the local authorities, and they didn't suspect him of any foul play. So he's been nothing but helping the authorities.
Gotcha. And I want you to take a listen. This is Lauren's brother who spoke to us last night on the program. he saw his sister that night, and in the statement that I read, your client, I guess, heard from Lauren that her brother was coming over. I want you to hear his description of what he was there doing that night and get your response to that as well.
The last time I saw Lauren, we went shopping that day, Christmas shopping. Bought a lot of items. We came back to my mom's house just to show her a couple of things to hang out with her. Lauren ended up leaving the house. She took some of my clothes. I went to go grab my clothes. She looked it perfectly fine. This gentleman said that she was intoxicated and drunk when he first met her. I didn't see any view of that. I mean, I knew my sister for 23 years. I've been around her my whole entire life. And she didn't look. She looked at like regular her. Upbeat, smiling, talking, laughing, joking, just regular Lauren.
Lakeem, let me ask you, to me, every time you're trying to put together what happened, timeline is so important. About what time did you see your sister that night, so we can see how large or small that window of time is from when she appears normal to when she ends up dead?
I got phone records. I seen my sister around 11:50 that night.
Okay, Peter, how does the timeline work out here? Now, he's saying that she seemed fine at 11:50 at night. What time do we know what time they fell asleep? Has your client told investigators about that?
Yeah, I don't have any details about the time or the timeline of the events. Like I said, the authorities will investigate, who came to the house, who dropped off what, if at all. And let's not forget that the victim in this matter, Lauren, this terrible tragedy and, loss of beautiful life. Let's not forget that. And our sincerest condolences go out to to Lauren's family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The alcohol that night, did your client provide the alcohol? Was the alcohol at her home? Did they purchase it together?
I have no comments about any alcohol. I'm not aware of any who purchased it or who consumed it or where it came from.
Let me ask you this. This case, obviously we're talking about it on Court TV. A lot of folks are talking about it. How is this impacting your client right now, all that's happening?
Obviously, this has been, my client's very upset about the whole situation. He was hanging out with a friend that he had recently met. He's very upset about the whole situation. Of course, he didn't wish this upon anybody. He's been wanting to give a statement for a while now. We've just kind of been keeping things quiet. And thanks to Frank Recchia from News 12 here in Connecticut today, who gave us the opportunity to give us our side of the story. And obviously, he's very upset as well.
The drug part of all of this. Did your client see drugs that night? Did he see the pill that the family found afterwards? Did he see Lauren ingest anything? Did he ingest anything that night?
Regarding any drugs, he did not see any. He did not ingest any, and we have no idea what Lauren may or may not have done that night. Obviously, looking back at the toxicology report yesterday, we know that drugs were at play here and that this was ruled an accidental overdose. So obviously drugs were at play with at least Lauren that night, but my client did not see any of that.
And did he just meet her that night?
Not sure about the timeline as to when they met.
So this may or may not have been the first time that they had gotten together?
Correct. Yeah, we're not. I'm not sure about the timeline as to when they first met. Correct.
All right. I also want to give you the opportunity. Is there anything else that you've heard anywhere reported that, from your perspective, is false, is not right, is wrong, that is being reported or said about what happened that night or your client?
Well, they've been portraying him as a 50-year-old married male, married with children, which is couldn't be farther from the truth. So I would just ask that the people who are watching the story very intensely just let all the facts come out before they jump to any conclusions. I know he's been called a murderer. His parents have been called murderers. His family has been called murderers. I'd ask that people that ask all the facts come out before they jump to conclusions about what or may not have happened on that night. And let's, like I said earlier, let's remember the real victim in this case, Lauren Smith Fields, who is no longer with us. Such a beautiful soul.
And does your client have any message for the family?
He's not going to be making any statements at this time.